Is this working? Yeah, it's... Alrighty. How's it going, everybody? Oh, welcome to Perfectly Poor Gaming. I'm just eating my dinner. It's like 4 in the morning. I just got done doing a bunch of Uber. I made a bunch of money so I can pay my rent because rent's coming up. And yeah, I'm just gonna watch Hassan because there's a lot of interesting news going on.
Israel, though, of course.
Until I'm done eating, anyways. I'm about to play a game after if I feel like it, or I might just pass out. We'll see. But anyways, I thought I would stream because why not?
Well, Alan Dershowitz is. He's quite literally defending Israel in the international
also,
court of justice.
This is my food. I got like chicken with rice, and I also have meatball calamari pasta that I made. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Interesting.
And a beast.
Interesting that
and pita bread
stalwart allies of the Palestinians could say things that are so similar to Israel's own legal counsel, Jeffrey Epstein. Anyway, we're gonna continue with the Jeffrey Epstein saga, Network of Depravity by Jabri. Part 1. We're going to finish the part 1 now.
4 years later, a new French investigation was launched into the disgraced modeling agent.
This part uncovers Jean-Luc Brunel, Jeffrey Epstein affiliate, who died under mysterious circumstances when a modeling agency.
In December 2020, Brunel was finally arrested, taken into custody on charges of sexual assault against minors, sexual harassment, criminal conspiracy, and trafficking human beings. While awaiting trial in February 2022, the 76-year-old Brunel was found hanging in his prison cell dead.
He died exactly the same way Jeffrey Epstein did as well, and also that he wasn't necessarily on suicide watch facing these charges.
Yes, but these parallels are so striking.
Another coincidence.
Virginia saw a lot of famous people during her time with Epstein, one being Les Wexner, who she said she had sex with possibly more than 5 times, according to unsealed court documents. Some additional names Virginia mentioned were MIT professor Marvin Minsky, who she says had sex with her on Little St. James Island, billionaire Tom Pritzker, and of course Simpsons creator Matt Groening, who she claims to have given a foot massage during a flight to Los Angeles, recounting how she almost threw up at the shape of his feet. Writing in her memoir, he had yellow, crusty toenails that even someone with a chainsaw would have had troubles cutting through. And then there was the fluffy balls of leftover pieces of sock wedged between the crevices of his sweaty toes. In return, he allegedly compensated her with a drawing of Homer and Bart Simpson made out to her brother and father. Amidst the vast sea of names implicated by Virginia, however, there was one very notable person that stood out among the rest.
I don't really know why you like to defend these high-profile clients. Do you regret it at all? And did you ever see anything untoward about Mr. Epstein?
Alan Dershowitz is a criminal defense attorney who has spent much of his life teaching at Harvard in between representing the most controversial figures he could find. He began his career defending 3 far-right terrorists accused of planting a bomb in the Manhattan office of Imprizio Saul Hurok, successfully getting them off before helping to get another certified good guy off the hook a couple years later. For those of you listening right now, I can't see the screen, it's O.J. Simpson. He was O.J. Simpson's lawyer in 1995, and would go on to provide his services for Mike Tyson during his rape case, Donald Trump during his first impeachment, where he argued it's not illegal for Trump to bribe the Ukrainian president, and was also Harvey Weinstein's lawyer, despite insisting on the view what a big supporter of the Me Too movement he was. In his 6 decades of being a public figure, Dershowitz is also...
He is the number one guy at getting totally evil people off. It's crazy. He's the ultimate bad guy defender.
also argued in favor of torture during the Iraq War, wrote about lowering the legal age of consent to 16, went to extreme lengths to deny tenure for pro-Palestinian professor Norm Finkelstein after a heated debate the two of them had on Israel, and is actually set to defend the state of Israel against allegations of war crimes at the International Court of Justice sometime in the near future. And of course, he was also the lawyer of Jeffrey Epstein, of whom he considered at one point to be a good friend. In fact, when asked if he'd still be close to Epstein in the event the financier could no longer afford legal counsel in 2003, Dershowitz replied, "Absolutely. I would be as interested in him as a friend if we had hamburgers on the boardwalk in Coney Island and talked about his ideas." What ideas? When he was writing his book, he told Vicky Ward that the only person he'd send drafts to outside of his immediate family was Jeffrey Epstein. Ward also notes that Dershowitz was thrilled to meet none other than Prince Andrew at Epstein's Manhattan residence one time, even letting the prince hang out in the back of his lectures.
I'm thrilled that all these papers have come out. I urged them. I went to court. I asked.
I was just thinking, like, earlier, I was like, you know, you think of, like, you know, like a trafficking ring of people. It's like, you would imagine, like, some high, you know, profile evil motherfuckers. But, like, yeah, that's them. like Donald Trump and Bill Clinton and all that shit, dude. Like, it's that, bro. Like, it always has been. You know what I mean? Those are the people that were fucking buying fucking sex slaves, dude. I swear to God. That's probably what it is.
For everything to come out because I knew that I had done nothing wrong and the papers would exculpate me. I want to make sure every single document comes out. The public has the right to see everything.
Virginia Giuffre first accused Alan Dershowitz of sexual abuse in a 2014 sworn affidavit, claiming under oath that she was forced to have sex with the professor on at least...
Yes.
Like
Alan
already.
Dershowitz is called Age of Consent laws controversial as of last month. Age of consent laws have become controversial, sparking debates on societal norms and legality. He loves defending lowering the age of consent.
6 separate occasions, even appearing to get physically sick as she tried to describe the alleged encounters to attorneys. The first time she ever met the Harvard professor, Virginia said on the record, was at the office of Epstein's Manhattan home, which we know from the Vanity Fair article Dershowitz was known to visit. While she stresses it's hard for her to remember things chronologically, she says she is able to recall the most recent time she had sex with Dershowitz, which allegedly happened on an airplane in Massachusetts, as well as the first time in Epstein's bedroom minutes after the financier had left the room. Dershowitz walked in, and Virginia claims they had sex on a red velvet chair. Afterwards, Epstein asked Virginia if he enjoyed it, to which she told him yes. She also claimed that Dershowitz participated in sexual activity in a black limousine involving herself, Epstein, Dershowitz, and another young girl on the way to Dershowitz's house. Virginia also emphasized just how aware Dershowitz was of all the other young girls constantly around Epstein, stating in her affidavit, Dershowitz was so comfortable with the sex that was going on that on one occasion he observed me in sexual activity with Epstein. Virginia also alleged she witnessed Dershowitz having sex with another one of Epstein's young victims at one point, a blonde girl who she assumed to be underage. Dershowitz has since lashed out hard against Virginia, who he's referred to as a borderline pathological liar out to destroy his career in pursuit of money. What happened next was a complicated years-long series of lawsuits in which Virginia went after Dershowitz for defamation, causing Dershowitz to countersue, eventually concluding with a settlement in 2022. After this settlement, Virginia told reporters that she, quote, may have made a mistake in accusing Dershowitz of abusing her. This has now given Dershowitz the green light to openly parade his supposed innocence in a barrage of media appearances, telling everyone who will listen about how wrongfully victimized he was by an attention-seeking liar, and that this is what finally exonerates him. But that's not exactly a fair characterization of the settlement, according to Virginia. As Dershowitz was taking his public victory lap, Virginia told the Daily Beast in an exclusive statement, I was shocked to read that Alan Dershowitz is claiming that our mutual dismissal of our lawsuits against each other somehow exonerated him. The litigation was very stressful and damaging to my family and to my health. We have endured years in which Mr. Dershowitz asserted my charges against him were a lie, made up out of whole cloth, perjury, and part of a purported extortion plot. He has now admitted there was no perjury perjury, no extortion plot, and rather than making up what I said, I honestly believe the charges I made against him. Whether or not Mr. Dershowitz's admissions undermine his previous denials of the charges made against him is for others to say. The settlement agreement limits what I can say, and I will abide by it unless and until I am released from it. However, those admissions are not consistent with exoneration.
I can tell you she is still a prostitute. She is selling false stories now for money about me.
Do you have any concern calling her a prostitute when she was victimized by this wealthy man?
She was not victimized. She made her own decisions in life.
But at the age of 15, some would say that's a little young and that she was taken advantage of.
I'm talking about the age of 19. Look, that's between her and the federal government and the people that she claims victimized her.
For what it's worth, I think it should also be said that Virginia had in fact told several people about Dershowitz being involved with Epstein's operation years before her affidavit. And for Dershowitz's part, it would seem he was totally fine with a friend of his making a quote-unquote joke about Epstein housing young girls in 2014. Virginia also reiterated to the Daily Beast that Mr. Dershowitz sued Mr. Boyce, her lawyer, for charging Mr. Dershowitz with participating in Epstein and other misconduct.
So
Mr. Boyce
crazy.
did not retract any of those charges, but Mr. Dershowitz nevertheless dismissed his claims against Mr. Boyce. That too hardly seems like exoneration. And if that's not enough, another Epstein victim, Sarah Ransom, also accused Dershowitz of having sex with her while she was being trafficked by Epstein. To this day, Ransom has never retracted her allegations against Dershowitz.
All the feminist
People are,
groups
like,
and the
literally
radicals
above the
who think
fucking
this is
law.
the worst thing in the world, that anybody ever had any contact with Jeffrey Epstein. Where are all those radical feminists when it comes to the Hamas rapes of young Jewish girls, sexual abuse, beheadings?
For a second, I thought, I closed my eyes and I thought I was listening to the H3H3 podcast or something, who I've heard make verbatim, the exact same argument. Not a defender of Israel, though, of course. Well, Alan Dershowitz
It's like
is.
the dumbest argument ever.
He's quite literally defending Israel in the International
Yeah, 'cause they
Court of
do
Justice. Interesting.
it.
Interesting that stalwart allies of the Palestinians could say things that are so similar to Israel's own legal counsel, Jeffrey Epstein.
They are quiet. They are silent. The incredible hypocrisy of the Me Too movement. Me Too, except if you're a Jew.
One of the first times Jeffrey Epstein made national headlines was in 2002, in this article written by Landon Thomas Jr., who, by the way, would also go on to write an extremely positive piece for the financier after he was sentenced for procuring an underage girl for prostitution, and before getting fired from the New York Times for admitting he was still friends with the convicted pedophile. Oh, he also asked Epstein for $30,000 in 2017, according to the Daily Beast, so that's fun. Pretty normal guy. Anyway, in this article, he uses language like he collects beautiful minds, and Epstein brings a trophy hunter's zeal to his collection of scientists and politicians. And that last part certainly isn't wrong, as subsequent data from the Center of Responsive Politics shows Epstein donated to a litany of politicians from both the right and the left, including Chuck Schumer, Bob Dole, Bob Packwood, Elliot Spitzer, and even former President George H.W. Bush. But of those names is a politician who's long been associated with Epstein since the mid-90s. Someone who Virginia says she met on Little St. James, and someone who's already been caught lying about his connection to the late pedophile.
Newly released Jeffrey Epstein court filings revealing more alleged ties to many people, including Bill Clinton.
Epstein was hanging around the 42nd president as early as 1993, a month after he was sworn into office, according to visitor logs provided by the Clinton Presidential Library. Epstein and Ghislaine visited again in September of that year after Epstein made a $10,000 donation to help refurbish the Oval Office, according to this letter from Bernard R. Meyer, the VP of the White House Historical Estate, for his generous contribution. Overall, it's been reported that Epstein visited the Clinton White House a grand total of 17 times, accompanied by 8 women, 4 of which being former girlfriends, according to these logs, which show that Epstein popped in and out of the White House twice in one day on 3 separate occasions, though there seems to be no stated purpose for any of these visits. Clinton also attended a 3-hour private dinner hosted by former Revlon owner Ron Perlman and other elite athletes in Palm Beach in 1995, a meeting that Clinton had not mentioned until a 28-year-old newspaper snippet obtained by Snopes confirmed it. In the wake of the Epstein story being revitalized by his arrest and death in 2019, Clinton has taken very conscious steps to distance himself from who he once called a highly successful financier and committed philanthropist. After all, Epstein's own lawyers asserted in court documents that Epstein was part of the original group that conceived the Clinton Global Initiative. A fun fact about the Clinton Global Initiative, by the way, is that they once endorsed the Terra Mar Project, an environmental NGO with the self-stated goal of conserving, protecting, and improving oceans, seas, and coastlines. Who founded the Terra Mar Project?
Ghislaine Maxwell. Gray bars are back.
You ask? Great question. Let's check it. Whoops. I mean, Snopes has verified that Ghislaine Maxwell did also attend Chelsea Clinton's wedding in 2010. Yep. Featured it right there in the middle. Man, not even in the background or anything. I didn't even want to hide it. After all, though, she did take the president's daughter out on a yacht trip a year earlier in 2009. Epstein was literally serving a jail sentence, while at the same time, the woman who helped him find victims was taking the president's daughter on a trip through the open seas. But whatever, I'm going insane. Let's take it back to 2002, when Landon Thomas Jr. wrote for the first time about the Clinton-Epstein World Tour extravaganza the two men embarked upon, visiting New York, Paris, Bangkok, Brunei, Norway, Morocco, Brussels, and need I go on, all in hopes of providing humanitarian aid for continents like Africa, spreading democracy, empowering the poor, and combating HIV and AIDS, according to a Clinton spokesperson shortly after the trip. Some of the other notable passengers on this famed international excursion included the likes of Chris Tucker and Kevin Spacey, who you can actually see sitting here on Queen Elizabeth's throne next to Ghislaine. According to the Daily Telegraph, they were taking a tour of Buckingham Palace led by Prince Andrew. I love recurring characters. In fact, despite Clinton originally insisting he had only taken 4 rides on the Lolita Express, flight logs indicate Clinton actually took at least 26 rides on Epstein's private jet shortly after leaving office between 2001 and 2003, an assertion that he still has not directly responded to. You wonder why that is. It's pretty out of character for him to lie to the American public, I think we all know. Virginia has never made any allegations of wrongdoing against Clinton himself, but her assertions do go a little further than what the former president has admitted to doing. Virginia stated in her sworn deposition that she personally met Clinton on Little St. James Island at least twice during her travels with Epstein, something that Clinton has long denied across the board, describing in her memoir an alleged dinner where there were only a few of us eating at the dinner table. There was Jeffrey at the head of it all, as always. On the left side was Emmy, another Epstein recruiter, Ghislaine, and I. Sitting across the table from us was Bill, with 2 lovely girls who were visiting from New York. Bill's wife, Hillary's absence from the night made it easy for his apparent provocative, cheeky side to come out. Teasing the girls on either side of him with playful pokes and brassy comments, there was no modesty between any of them. We all finished our meals and scattered in our own different directions. Strolling into the darkness with 2 beautiful girls around either arm, Bill seemed content to retire for the evening. Now, to Clinton's credit, flight logs obtained through an FOIA request have presented no evidence that he attended the island. Now, yes, he flew with Epstein more times, way more times, than he originally cared to admit, but those same flight records also don't do a lot to imply he ever visited Little St. James. But along with Virginia's sworn deposition, we also have former Clinton aide Doug Band, who Clinton kept in his inner circle even after leaving the White House. Band himself has even flown on the Lolita Express with the former president, just to give you an idea of how close these two were. Band has also alleged for years that Clinton has in fact visited Little St. James, specifically in January of 2003. Band did not attend this alleged visit, as he told Vanity Fair it was one of the few trips he declined. It's worth noting the Clinton camp has provided detailed travelogue entries of the period in question that do not contain a visit, as Vanity Fair goes on to clarify. But then you have Steve Scully, a former employee of Epstein's in charge of the island's telecommunication for 6 years, who not only claimed to have seen Prince Andrew groping and kissing Virginia near a pool, he says, but also stated in the Netflix documentary Filthy Rich that he once witnessed Bill Clinton sitting on a porch on the island next to Epstein. Virginia only doubling down in the documentary with, "I remember having dinner with Clinton. He was there and I never saw him do anything improper. I wish, he would just come clean about it, like, yeah, I was there, so what? Who cares? I didn't see anything going on."
Any comments on the alleged allegation of your connection with Jeffrey Epstein?
Guilty. Dude, he is though. He is such a demon, bro. I've heard so many crazy stuff about how like post Lewinsky, Bill and Hillary they've just had like a long-standing proposition that they're never unless it's like a public event where they have to show up together, they just like don't hang out with one another. Then he just straight up is piping. He is a real horn dog. I met him in 2016 when I was libbed up. Nice. Jean-Luc Brunel, a French modeling agent at Epstein Association, trafficked underage girls and later died in custody. Trump ran a modeling agency and owned pageants and where underage contestants were present. When Brunel was directly tied to trafficking, Trump's agency faced visa and exploitation scandals, including hiring underage models. Epstein also met one of the victims at Mar-a-Lago. The overlap raises questions. Is that ChatGPT that you went to? Because we've already covered all that. And yes, you are right. And the involvement that Trump and Epstein have go beyond that. It's even deeper than that.
Now, I don't think I have to tell you that Republicans with a hate boner for Clinton have absolutely done everything they can to emphasize his murky relationship with the billionaire, or millionaire. I guess we don't know how much Epstein was really worth. And I don't think there's anything wrong at all with bringing up those connections. I mean,
I think it's really funny that the Republicans actually point to the Epstein connection with Bill Clinton when in the exact same time frame, a person that was also a Democrat, by the way, a New York elite, was also just as involved, and sometimes even next to Bill Clinton, as a matter of fact. His name was Donald Trump. Now, at least with the Clinton family, they have long-standing continued relationships with Epstein and, Epstein's mansions. Like they went to the Zorro Ranch a lot. And also on top of that, their connection to Ghislaine, like their public relationship with Ghislaine goes far beyond Jeffrey Epstein being outed and being convicted as a sex criminal. Whereas for Trump, the paper trail kind of runs cold. So I don't know. I don't know how far it goes.
You should ask questions about it, especially when you consider Clinton has lied about it. But those on the right who only single out Bill Clinton's relationship with Epstein should probably look in the mirror.
Jeff Epstein. Hello, everyone. I'm back. Do you think my list will actually get released? So stupid.
Well, I knew him like everybody in Palm Beach knew him. I mean, people in Palm Beach knew him. He was a fixture in Palm Beach. I had a falling out with him a long time ago. I don't think I've spoken to him for 15 years.
As Landon Thomas wrote in his New York Magazine profile, Epstein likes to tell people that he's a loner, a man who's never touched alcohol or drugs, and one whose nightlife is far from energetic. And yet, if you talk to Donald Trump, a different Epstein emerges.
I've known Jeff for 15 years. Terrific guy.
Trump booms from a speakerphone.
He's a lot of fun to be with. It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do. And many of them are on the younger side, no doubt about it. Jeffrey enjoys his social life.
Sorry for doing the voice. I couldn't quote him and not do the voice. This quote, which again dates all the way back to 2002, is remarkable considering what Trump has said during journalists in 2019 from the White House that
I was not a fan of his. That I can tell you. I was not a fan of his.
So was he just being a fake friend all along then? You were fake for 15 years? You said he was a good hang. Alan Dershowitz, who of course represented both men in court, told the New York Times that in those days, if you didn't know Trump and you didn't know Epstein, you were a nobody. I didn't even know this until researching this video, but apparently Epstein liked to say he was the one who introduced Donald Trump to Melania. According to Vanity Fair, which also reported in 2021 that Ghislaine kept up to 16 of Trump's phone numbers in the infamous Little Black Book. She would also invite the future president to dinners and events all over the state of New York, their most infamous get-together being caught on this now widely circulated video of an extremely coked up looking Trump clapping and dancing and whispering into the ear of Epstein, who he's not a fan of, by the way. The pair standing in front of a swarm of young models at a private Mar-a-Lago party and seem to be having a grand old time. I'm sure you've seen the video, but what you may not know is that the same year this was filmed, Trump and Epstein held another private party in Palm Beach where 28 women were in attendance. The only men at this party, though, were Trump and Epstein, at least according to the man who supplied the women. George Horaney of American Dream Enterprises tells the New York Times that he actually warned Trump of Epstein's proclivities toward young women, asking Trump in disbelief, "You're telling me it's you and Epstein? I know Jeff really well, and I can't have him going after younger girls." While Horaney says he had to ban Epstein from events, Trump didn't care about that, a claim that goes directly against what one Trump campaign manager later said, which is that Trump did eventually stop letting Epstein hang around events because he was too creepy. which in my opinion is a little out of character for Donald Trump. It's hard to deny Trump's reputation with women, especially younger women, isn't exactly the greatest. There is definitely some indication that Trump was aware of the young girls in Epstein's vicinity. Some insight coming from his future White House aide, Roger Stone, who told the New York Times in an effort to defend Trump, I think, that the former president once said the swimming pool was filled with beautiful young girls. How nice, I thought. He let the neighborhood kids use the pool after seeing Epstein's home in Palm Beach. And to make matters even more strange.
What? Dude, as a ball knower, I'm sometimes shocked when I find out new shit. Like that I don't remember. What an insane way to try and defend Donald Trump, dude. What an insane way to be like, oh yeah, Donald Trump saw little girls at the pool and he thought Jeffrey Epstein is so nice to allow the neighborhood little girls to go and use the swimming pool. Like he's just some naive moron. Like as though that's gonna work at all. It's probably his way of pretending like he's doing a nice thing while intentionally throwing him under the bus. No, Roger Stone is big Trump booster loyalist.
Journalist Craig Unger concluded his Vanity Fair examination of Trump and Epstein's relationship with the following passage. An associate of Epstein's, who asked not to be identified, told me that Epstein showed him one photo of Trump with a topless young girl. In another, the source said Trump is with two girls who are said to be laughing as they point out what appears to be a wet spot in an unfortunate location on his pants. The description of the photo suggested that it was a semen stain, but the photos have never been released.
We need to see that photo. We need to see that photo instantly. I have to see it.
But by being in the news, it does feed into what Mark Epstein once reportedly heard from his older brother Jeff when it came to the 2016 election. As Mark told the New York Post recently, here's a direct quote: "If I said what I know about both candidates, they'd have to cancel the election. That's what Jeffrey told me in 2016. What that means exactly, we may never know." The two New York natives wouldn't stay friends forever though. While the exact reason for their split is still uncertain, it seemed to happen around 2005 when Epstein threatened to sue Trump over his purchase of a 65,000 square foot property Epstein had set his sights on, which was
I think given how much we've seen the leaks and Michael Wolff confirming that he saw the photo, we'll probably see Trump's pre-cum soon. Yes, that is a word. Those are a sequence of words that you probably thought you would never hear on the Hasanabi broadcast or anywhere, as a matter of fact. Those words are not in the Bible and certainly not in the Bible in direct sequence. We will eventually see Donald Trump's pre-cum photo, which I will be adding to my rare Trump collection. First in my bloodline to hear that sentence, by the way. Yep. The rarest of all Trumps. Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. With Trump ultra rare in an ultra rare position where there's pre-cum in his pants. Pre-cum Trump.
Was also once owned by Les Wexner, by the way, another fun fact. The thing never actually went to court, but it's been reported that Epstein himself once theorized that it was actually Donald Trump who tipped off local police in Palm Beach as a kind of retaliation for the threat. Sure, we know Trump is a petty guy, but authorities ultimately began looking into Epstein because of what young girls in
He's
the
not just a petty guy, he might be a pedo guy too.
Community had been saying. Unfortunately for them, the efforts of these prosecutors would tragically prove pretty feckless.
Breaking news and the fallout from the 2008 plea deal involving Palm Beach County billionaire Jeffrey Epstein. Just hours Acosta, as we've reported, vigorously defended his oversight of that plea deal.
Mr. Acosta is doing.
He also is a very weird looking dude, right? Like he's such a weird looking guy.
Everything he can to divert attention away from his own responsibility.
And tonight we are still waiting on a statement from former Palm Beach County State Attorney Barry Krischer.
So this video,
someone said chopped. Alex Acosta was Chuz. He was chopped Huz, dude. Former labor secretary and the prosecutor that gave Jeffrey Epstein a sweetheart plea deal was chopped Huz.
Ended up being a lot longer than I originally planned. I'm afraid if we don't split this into multiple videos, we may not get to cover everything as extensively as I'd like. But you can expect part 2 to explore the horrendous plea agreement that allowed Jeffrey Epstein to avoid life in prison, along with the connections he maintained after he was a
Unc, you're 34, yeah, and I'm chopped too, so I'm chunk. Chopped Unk, also known as Chunk.
Convicted sex offender, his second arrest in 2019, and of course, whether or not he truly killed himself in custody. That video should come out about a week after this one, if all goes.
All right, let's get to number 2 on the Jeffrey Epstein scandal and saga.
14
to catch and release a part 2.
It's getting sick. It's like it looks kind of like like turn-based combat, I think, like Baldur's Gate, but also it's like a roguelike. Like you get to choose different spell combinations and stuff. That looks pretty sweet. I think that's what, yeah, turn-based tactical roguelike. Dude, that's freaking badass. It's only $5 right now too. It's usually freaking 20. I wish it was on so fucking tired. Sleep. What's that game called? I can't remember. Maybe I should just buy it. Looks really cool. Yeah, it's online multiplayer too. It's freaking badass. Oh my god. Should I just play the spell masons game? It's really cool.
Two.
About 2 decades ago, authorities in Palm Beach, Florida began receiving tips of a middle-aged, enigmatic billionaire abusing underage girls in the community. At that time, Jeffrey Epstein already carried an unusual reputation. People knew he was someone with deep ties to the upper echelon of society, though not much was known about the exact nature of those connections, where he acquired all his wealth, and what was happening inside the walls of his 14,000 square foot palace. That is until a concerned parent.
I know Twitter thinks I'm 38 because of Dexterity Ox. Austin Ox has cooked me once again. Austin Ox has once again cooked me. Okay, man, I'm 50. I look great for 38. If I look this good at the age of 38, I will be so happy. Yes, I know Wall Street Journal let Abu Shabab, who is the head of the ISIS-affiliated gang, and the Israeli collaborator,
that'd be so sad.
Who created a new militia force called the Popular Forces, wrote an editorial piece for the Wall Street Journal. I mean, this should come as no surprise. Guys, we literally made a former Al-Qaeda commander the president of Syria, okay? It does not matter. What, the 38? No, I'm 34. A former Al-Qaeda commander is now the president of Syria. They took him off the terrorism watch list. And on top of that, like, yeah, Israel gets to work with whichever ISIS affiliate they want to. That means automatically that they're no longer bad. They're good now.
Dialed 911 on March 14th, 2005, and expressed concern that her 14-year-old...
I feel like me and Hassan, like, pretty much literally, like, think the exact same way about all this shit. I mean, not really. Well, I mean, kind of, I don't know.
Stepdaughter had received $300 in cash after a visit to a certain gentleman's house, as stated in the call that was later publicized in the Netflix documentary Filthy Rich. The girl, known only as Jane Doe 1 to police, had been bullied and was labeled a prostitute by other kids at Palm Beach Royal High after rumors of her and her friend giving Epstein a quote-unquote massage began circulating around the school, according to the Miami Herald journalist Julie K. Brown.
You're a victim at that point. Like, you're a victim. Not even at that point. You're just a victim, okay? God damn, dude. American high schools are so ruthless. It's like they were slut-shaming a victim of pedophilia. That's crazy.
As she wrote in her book, Perversion of Justice, an investigation...
Blackened Gem. Thank you for the 20 gifted subs.
Soon identified the cousin of Jane Doe's boyfriend, Haley Robson, as the 16-year-old who introduced her to the financier. Being one of his many teenage recruiters, Haley's job was to bring Epstein as many young victims as possible, telling People magazine that at 16, she had no idea what she was getting herself into, stating that she wasn't mature enough to understand the repercussions. Thinking to herself at the time, what am I gonna do next? Am I going to college? Am I gonna move? Am I gonna stay here? Etc. As she went on to testify...
Arrest Obama was this week's the red meat thrown to us in the media. It hasn't worked. Next week, Biden laptop, Maxwell pardon, Adam Schiff, anything but Epstein. Except the Maxwell pardon is a major own goal. Because as Felix correctly points out, you know, none of it surprises me in a moral sense, but just in a practical sense, you'd figure someone would grab Trump by the shoulders and go, you are advertising that you ate an infant's spine on tape by offering limited immunity to a prolific sex trafficker, affiliate of Jeffrey Epstein. This time around, I was astounded by the independent media members who ignored Acosta Barr, the fact that all this happened during his first term, and a billion other aspects of his personal and political lives. Now they get the true Trump experience, holding a bag of shit, dumbfounded. I don't know what else to say. David Cage would write a game where the evil bad president does all of this, and then he'd take a look and go, nah, that's way too blatant and on the nose. Let's start over. He's branding so hard and he's surrounded himself with so many true believer sycophants that no one is willing to give him the talk. They're so into the idea that articles can't hurt them that they now think nothing they do has consequences. Any victory at all, even a 1.5% popular vote plurality win in a cost of living crisis election against a petrified candidate means we can do whatever we want always. Yeah. Jesus Christ, Murat.
Never gonna know.
U.S. government review found no evidence of widespread Hamas theft of Gaza aid. Oh, that's yeah. We'll get to that as well. But yeah, this is the no spin zone, baby. There's no spin zone, and by that I mean it is impossible. It is impossible for there to be any spin here because it's just so ridiculous.
That if a victim refused his sexual advances, they were sometimes made to bring him other girls. The younger, the better, as Haley recalled him saying. This created a years-long pyramid scheme of abuse, as some have called it, and finally prompted the Palm Beach PD to begin an investigation. Spying on Epstein's house and taking note of the young girls who would visit the man at all hours of the day, after digging through his trash and finding concerning receipts for books. Police obtained a warrant and discovered a high school transcript belonging to one of his accusers, along with a receipt for a dozen roses that he sent the same girl. As Detective Joseph Ricari told Brown, the house was exactly how the girls had described it, right down to the bizarre color of the furniture. Although police identified over 24 victims during this time, we know for a fact there were still many, many more out there. In fact, one of the reasons we still don't know the precise number of girls Epstein abused is because of an infamous plea deal that would come later. A deal that essentially quashed an ongoing FBI investigation that could have exposed the scope of Epstein's operation right then and there, which is enough to leave any victim feeling despondent and disrespected. They could have seen justice if it weren't in part for Epstein's team of seasoned lawyers working with the government to hammer out a highly controversial agreement on the pedophile's terms.
One of the disappointed lawyers who pressed for release of the FBI Epstein dealings said the treatment went way beyond preferential.
Because they don't have to. There's no law or statute that says that the justification for a plea negotiation has to be actually written in there. It doesn't have to be written in there, and it really is something that we may never know because it would have all of their negotiations.
What was so important to the government that sex crimes described in this agreement were treated so lightly?
Now, I would suggest you go ahead and watch part 1 of this series if you haven't already, as it sort of sets the groundwork for who Epstein was by 2005, the connections he had already made, and what victims had been saying about him from as early as 2002. This video will consist of everything that came after, as I'll try to explain to the best of my abilities how and why Epstein was allowed to continue abusing girls for nearly a decade after his short stint in prison.
The court docket with his name on it lists a string of delays and continuances, and that speaks to a deal in the works.
Now, if they can't make this go away, then they're going to minimize the damage. And that's what happened here. It's probably going to be damage control to have the shortest amount of prison time, the least amount of harm to him.
But before we go any further here, I do want to go ahead and thank today's sponsor, Aura. If you've ever Googled yourself, you may be alarmed to see a shocking amount of your own personal information, like your name or email address, exposed online for the entire world to see. Shady data brokers are known to sell your information to scammers, spammers, or to anyone else who may want to target you. Thankfully though, Aura shows you exactly which brokers are selling your information and can submit opt-out requests on your behalf. It helps reduce the amount of
Edward says he's fighting to have the federal plea deal for Epstein tossed out.
So the link is already no longer working, most likely.
And a new prosecution launched.
You are blocking Kaya's view. I apologize for the egregious crime of blocking Kaya from view. You should get a more comfortable chair. My chair is literally the Bentley, the Bugatti of computer chairs. Literally, I think the best possible computer chair that anyone could have. It's not just like a regular Herman Miller. It's the Logitech Herman Miller collab. Socialist, by the way. Yeah. You want to know what's really up? I got it for free. They gave it to me for free. Isn't that crazy? The rich get richer, baby. Let's go. I mean, I would have bought it. Regardless, this is something that I spend a fuck ton of time on. All right, bro. Big flex on chat. Relax. Nah, sometimes I got to let you know. So that all my haters can clip it and be like, piece of shit, fake socialist says he's rich. Says he's rich. He says he's rich.
West Palm Beach Congresswoman Lois Frankel is calling for a congressional investigation.
When it comes to the Epstein plea deal, there's a small cast of characters we'll need to introduce. You had the Dersh, of course, but Epstein also brought on legal powerhouse Kenneth Starr to his all-star defense team. No pun intended there, I just realized how that sounds though. Starr, who rose to prominence when he uncovered the Clinton-Lewinsky scandal that led to the former president's impeachment, was also a member of the Federalist Society along with fellow Epstein attorney J. Lefkowitz. The Federalist Society, as Brown points out in her book, is accredited with producing 6 Supreme Court justices, most notably Samuel Alito, who also just so happens to be Alexander Acosta's old mentor, a guy who, most famously, became known for personally approving the abhorrent plea deal, which adds to the idea that, as lead detective on the Epstein case, Joseph Ricari told Brown a lot of the prosecutors who should have been on the side of the victims found themselves weirdly enamored by those who made up Epstein's impressive defense team, adding the amount of evidence that disappeared or was covered up in this case was mind-boggling, referring to a horde of Epstein's computers and hard drives that mysteriously went missing upon a raid of his home. Not the last time this would happen, by the way. In fact, he and Michael Ryder at the time...
Dude, just a sequence of real crazy coincidences, dude. Please don't ever say that there are mysterious events happening that just keep getting in the way of justice being served. Why? It's just so many strange coincidences. Jeffrey Epstein, just a real lucky guy. And then, of course, when his luck ran out, he got real unlucky and then real sad and then killed himself, right? Like, that's what I'm supposed to believe, right? I have to believe that.
I'm the police chief who launched the original investigation into Epstein in Palm Beach. Both maintained that for whatever reason, prosecutors would rather throw the case instead of go after someone so well connected in the political world. I mean, after all, maybe some of these guys wanted jobs in higher places. They weren't exactly gonna make...
Hold on. Here's my new video. Enjoy. That's pretty good. Not bad, not bad. With the post. That's the blue.
Make any friends by throwing a prolific campaign donor behind bars for life. And one way of assuring Epstein would get a lighter sentence was by putting the case in front of a grand jury. A grand jury who, according to Ricari, was only given part of the Epstein story by state prosecutor Lana Belalovic.
It's so annoying because, like, I get views on TikTok, but I never get any follows. I don't know, like, what the hell? Like, I don't really get that many subs on YouTube. Like, I got like 3,000 views and I only got like 1 sub, but I mean, better than nothing. I don't understand, like, why I never get any follows on TikTok. How do I get views, not get any followers? Just don't follow on TikTok. Like, strange. Really strange.
Lavick, it should be mentioned, had her own doubts regarding the victims' testimonies, and basically fed right into the narrative Epstein's defense had tried cooking up, that these victims were actually not victims at all. They were drunks, delinquents, and drug users hell-bent on attacking an innocent old man for his money. They were nothing more than greedy prostitutes, according to both Epstein's defense and seemingly Belalovic herself. In her book, Brown recounts an alleged conversation between Ricari and Belalovic. Ricari asking the...
Guys, since this came out, the DOJ has granted limited immunity to Ghislaine Maxwell, so clearly no wrongdoing here, okay? Yeah, this is really funny. Stuff is getting so funny, says Evan. Getty Images is incredible. This guy responds, who is this guy? He's in the vicinity of Epstein, so he must be a pedophile. No. The guy he's pointing to, yes, is absolutely perhaps the worst guy to sarcastically point to is it's Prince Andrew. This is gonna own all the libs that keep saying that people who keep consistently being photographed around Jeffrey Epstein are pedophiles. Well, what about this guy? It's like, yeah, dude, he is too. That's the point. Yes, actually.
Prosecutor, how can you not believe these girls when you haven't even interviewed them? Ricari himself had already interviewed at least 30 victims, by the way. Belalovic responded, look, we have pictures of the girl holding a beer in her hand. She's underage, and she's drinking. They're talking about smoking pot and drinking and sex on MySpace. This is problematic. To which Ricari rightfully argued, tell me which teenager doesn't drink. Based on this criteria, you're telling me the only victim of sexual...
Dude, this is why I call lawyers debate perverts, okay? And Supreme Court justices debate pedophiles. Like, the highest degree of debate pervertry is when you're a judge, and the higher you get elevated in being a judge, the higher your perversion increases. Like this is straight up the same kind of like annoying sophistry that you see on communities that love debating, and it's a sport for them. It's just crazy because like at least these guys are high powered, get paid a lot to do this like monstrous deed. Many such cases of people who do it for free online at the behest of their favorite content creator who doesn't know that they exist. Yeah, I burped, sorry.
Battery could be a nun. Ricari insisted the evidence they mounted against Epstein during this time, which included flight logs, phone records, phone numbers belonging to girls, copies of written phone messages found in Epstein's trash, and even a high school transcript belonging to one of the victims was more than enough for a conviction. Not to mention at least 24 victims had been identified and interviewed by authorities at this point. For all intents and purposes, there was no valid reason for this not to be a slam dunk case, which makes what happened an even bigger travesty for all the girls traumatized at the hands of Epstein and his high-profile buddies. Once Dershowitz had officially taken the reins, Ryder described State Attorney Barry Krischer's apparent heel turn to the New Yorker, noting also in a deposition that at first, Krischer said, let's go for it. This is an adult male in his 50s who had sexual contact with children. But once Dershowitz got involved, the tone and tenor of the discussions of this case with Mr. Krischer changed completely. After meeting with Dershowitz a few times, who went to nasty lengths to destroy these girls' reputations, as he once supposedly told the attorney in private, Krischer made a controversial move to pull together a grand jury, who did successfully charge Epstein in 2006 with only solicitation of a prostitute. Only that wasn't even really scratching the surface of what Epstein was being accused of. Not only had Epstein solicited sex from way more girls than just one, like the charge asserted, Ricari later told Brown he felt the grand jury hadn't been given the full picture of the situation at all, and that Belalovic and Krischer were essentially resting the entire case on one victim's
Yeah, I mean, it's just classic defense to literally engage in the defamation or engage in attacks against like victims, no matter how young they are, referring to 14, 15-year-old girls as prostitutes is really up, but it is also exactly what Alan Dershowitz got away with doing successfully.
Testimony, not even alluding to the almost 30 other girls that had accused Epstein in total. These were also children, mind you. The fact that this child victim was reduced to just a prostitute in this ruling should be criminal.
By the way, the criminal justice system directly convicted Jeffrey Epstein of a lowered case, a lowered sentence of procuring prostitution from minors, as in they also went along with this. Like, he was supposed to be initially charged with sex trafficking of minors, and
still gonna post it though, because sometimes shit gets me views, especially weird ass shit like that. What is? I need as many views as I can get. I need to fucking be the most famous fucking YouTuber that's ever fucking lived. Okay, let's see. One day, baby, one day. children that come in and say, "Don't curse." Oh shit. Okay.
And statutory rape of minors, like children. But instead, he was actually charged with the solicitation of prostitution, including from a minor, which is because the underlying implication there is like that the minor can somehow consent to working as a prostitute.
In itself. It goes without saying that Michael Ryder was furious, as anyone with a conscience would be. I mean, Epstein was released on just a $3,000 bond hours after the charge. Those at the Palm Beach PD who knew the extent.
Yeah, by the way, this is also, remember, when I first said Ghislaine Maxwell pardon watch, Ghislaine Maxwell is probably going to get pardoned. People in the chat said, there's no way, that's crazy. Limited immunity for Ghislaine is official from the Department of Justice, so remember that.
Of Epstein's crimes immediately slammed Krischer for giving Epstein special treatment. Ryder then called upon the FBI to open their own investigation. During what was called Operation Leap Year, the FBI began to compile even more mountains of evidence against the financier. For a while, it looked like Epstein might finally be sent away for good, until Alan Dershowitz reached a shocking non-prosecution agreement with U.S. Attorney for Miami, Alexander Acosta. This secret deal that took over a year to negotiate has been rightfully and viciously.
You don't think?
Man, I'm so mad about this shit, dude. This sucks, dude. Really fucking sucks. Fucking terrible, dude. What the hell? I can't even believe this shit.
I think they'll commuter sentences says yes, that's what's gonna happen.
Yeah, but
criticized.
I don't know exactly what kind of leniency or sentence commutation they will. I don't know what kind of power that they have, but yes, there will be.
These people rich
there
and
will,
powerful. Like, why
in
can't
my
I be
opinion, there will be
I would never do some shit like that.
a pardon or a sentence commutation, like some sort of benefits for her, some sort of leniency in the sentencing. Some sort of adjustment to her sentence.
Yeah.
Giving Epstein basically all the leeway he could have asked for. Even Epstein's own attorneys called it unprecedented and highly unusual, just to give you a sense of how generous it was. Yes, it required him to plead guilty, but only to 2 state charges of procuring a minor for prostitution, which barely accounted for all the years' worth of evidence and testimony Palm Beach authorities and now the FBI had collected. He was required to register as a sex offender, but that was a small fee for avoiding what could have been a lifetime in federal prison. Instead, Epstein was only required to spend 13 months in what was essentially just a summer camp for rich people at the end of the day. I mean, he was still allowed to go into his office.
12 hours a day, he was allowed to leave the prison, dude. 12 hours a day. That is unheard of for an offense like for a sex offense against a minor. Sex offenders in general do not get to walk around freely, okay? Because a big part of why you are put behind bars is quite literally because you're a danger to additional victims. They were like, oh, you like diddling kids? Well, for 12 hours a day, you can keep doing that if you would like to.
During the day to complete work as long as he returned to his facility at night. Jail records show he would buy things like women's panties during this time and was seemingly allowed to go in and out of an unlocked cell at will thanks to his work release, reportedly spending 12 hours a day, 6 days a week at his private office. He was also apparently allowed to visit a chiropractor sometimes 3 days a week. Records even stopped referring to Epstein as an inmate eventually, just in case you were wondering how comfortable he was here. It got to a point where one U.S. attorney wrote to a deputy police chief that Epstein making telephone calls, web surfing, and having food delivered to him is probably not in accordance with the objectives of imprisonment. You think? And while we don't know everyone who visited Epstein behind bars, since most visitor logs were conveniently destroyed by authorities, he was visited by Jean-Luc Brunel upwards of 70 times in prison.
Who also, I guess, remember, he was maybe delivering something else when he was visiting. Could be minors even.
I'm sure nothing shady was going on there. Attorneys representing Jane Doe 1 and Jane Doe 2 called it one of the most extraordinarily lenient plea deals in modern history. To make it even more of a slap in the face, the only victim called to testify during this whole thing wasn't even told the deal had been struck, and neither had her lawyer, though that didn't stop Bella Lavick from telling the judge that the victim had in fact agreed to the deal as stated by Brown. And if you were wondering what happened to Alexander Acosta, well, let's just say he saw a little bit of a bump in status when he was appointed U.S. Secretary of Labor in 2017, handpicked by the 45th President, Donald J. Trump.
The nominee for Secretary of the Department of Labor will be Mr. Alex Acosta.
Brown acknowledges that as labor secretary, Acosta would have had direct oversight of America's labor laws, which quite literally includes human trafficking. In fact, if it weren't for her bombshell article published in 2018, it's likely Acosta would have kept that position longer, and it may have kept Epstein further away from public consciousness too. It was really the work of Julie K. Brown and others at the Miami Herald that demanded attention be brought to this dark stain on Acosta's resume and called for a re-examination of Epstein himself, which
once again, very strange to me that like these are such key players in the Jeffrey Epstein saga, and all of the Trump demand the release of the Epstein files never seem to put these puzzle pieces together. Like the fact that he was arrested under the Trump administration, went to federal prison that was under the control of the Trump administration, and died under mysterious circumstances during the Trump administration in federal prison. Like, that's crazy. How is that not even, like, how does that pass the scrutiny that so many people have? I don't understand it. Like, Trump made the guy who gave Jeffrey Epstein basically the most insane plea deal of all time, a greatly elevated status, like the labor secretary at
ultimately
the time.
Culminated with his second arrest the following year. Not even Congress seemed to give a second thought toward Acosta's sweetheart deal, as they confirmed him to the president's cabinet with ease. So if you needed to have any less faith in our government, then there you go. Acosta, however, facing public pressure, chose to resign from the Trump administration in shame, about 2 years after he got the job. Then, after an extensive investigation into the Epstein deal in 2020, the Department of Justice ruled that while Alexander Acosta acted in, quote, poor judgment, his decision did not translate to professional misconduct, despite leaving the victims completely in the dark while plea negotiations were underway. And although Acosta may have personally maintained that he did nothing wrong, standing by his decision and offering no apologies to the victims, the scandal had already cost him his career. So, not sure what he's up to now, but I'm just glad we don't have to see his face on TV anymore. By 2009, Epstein was...
Wonder what Alex Acosta is doing lately. Newsmax Inc. names Paula Dobriansky and Alex Acosta to the board of directors as of June 11th, 2025. Wow. Secretary Alex Acosta serves as the 27th United States Secretary of Labor. He's the son of Cuban refugees and a first-generation college graduate, earning his undergraduate and law degrees from Harvard University. Wow. Mr. Acosta's diverse experiences include serving as the chairman of the U.S. Century Bank, as dean of the FIU College of Law, as U.S. Attorney and Assistant Attorney General at the Department of Justice, a member of the National Board of Relations, as a senior fellow at the Ethics and Public Policy Center, as an analyst at Lehman Brothers. Following law school, Mr. Acosta worked as a law clerk for the then U.S. Court of Appeals, Judge Samuel Alito. And as an associate primarily in labor law and in appeals at Kirkland and Ellis. Mr. Acosta has served 4 presidentially appointed Senate-confirmed positions. In 2002, Mr. Acosta was confirmed as a member of the National Labor Relations Board. In 2003, he was confirmed Assistant Attorney General for the Civil Rights Division of the U.S. Department of Justice. From 2005 to 2009, Mr. Acosta served as the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Florida. Glad that he got elevated in the process. Glad he got elevated in that process after his wonderful work as the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Florida. What did he do then? What did he do when he was the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Florida? Newsmax. Earlier today or yesterday was calling Ghislaine Maxwell a victim. That Newsmax. They were saying, well, one could say that Ghislaine Maxwell is a victim. Mr. Acosta's diverse experiences. Mr. Acosta, from 2009 through 2016, Mr. Acosta served as the dean of the FIU College of Law, a majority Hispanic law school. During his tenure, FIU law flourished. In December 2013, Mr. Acosta was named chairman of the U.S. Century Bank. Mr. Acosta served as a chairman through May 2017, successfully leading a recapitalization and management renewal that resulted in an exit from TARP, a return to profitability, an extraordinary improvement in asset quality, and lifting of the FDIC consent order. And then he became the labor secretary. Cool. Nothing to see here, man. It's just normal stuff.
A free man, even though he resented Dershowitz for getting him what he believed to be too harsh of a sentence. After all, Epstein never believed his crimes amounted to anything more than stealing a bagel, in his own words. To give you an idea of the ego we're dealing with here, once Epstein got out, he commissioned an entire mural of himself in prison as a reminder of where he had once been and where he could very well end up again. Not like this would stop him from abusing more women over the next decade, though. In December 2023, the Wall Street Journal published an extensive piece documenting in great detail all of the women who have since come forward about the experience they've had with Jeffrey Epstein after he got out of prison in 2009. And it should be emphasized, every single instance of abuse outlined in this article after 2009 would not have happened had Epstein been rightfully sent to jail for life when authorities had him. He was instead able to throw $100,000 at a well-known PR firm to rehabilitate his image in 2011, according to court documents. The same firm previously used by Michael Vick and Rush Limbaugh to varying degrees of success, I suppose. Either way, Epstein didn't seem to have much of a problem getting on the good side of scientists who gladly accepted hefty donations to their Ivy League schools and laboratories. One particular beneficiary who was actually cool with Epstein on a personal level before and after his sentencing was theoretical physicist at Arizona State and Yale, Lawrence Krauss. Krauss, who I mentioned at the beginning of this video, actually gave that Daily Beast article some more quotables, which are very rough. They're rough, okay? If anything, the unfortunate period he suffered has caused him to really think about what he wants to do with his money and his time, and support knowledge, which, by the way, again, is just such a laughable sentiment. What knowledge Jeffrey Epstein had to offer the scientific community beyond a blank check and occasional visits to Pedophile Island is truly beyond my speculation. He believed in cryogenics, for God's sake. He wanted his penis frozen so that he could keep having sex after he...
Yep. That's right. Jeffrey Epstein wanted to have his egg-shaped penis frozen so that it could be used in the future. Just a real sicko. Direct connections to all of these elite institutions, by the way. The very same elite institutions that are, that have spent the last year and a half brutalizing its students with a conscience, with a moral backbone, that cry out about the associations that these institutes of higher learning have with a criminal state such as Israel. Just, not the best judge of character these guys are.
Died. He wanted to ingratiate his DNA into the human collective at his baby-making farm in New Mexico. To think that this guy was some scientific expert? That's insane. That's just not true. That's insane. I'm sorry. That's insane. But Krauss doesn't stop there, only continuing to blow smoke up his ass by telling Alexandra Wolf Jeffrey has surrounded himself with beautiful women and young women, but they're not as young as the ones that were claimed. So obviously that means the claims couldn't be true, right? Come on, Krause. Use your purported scientific reasoning here to deduce that Epstein, a guy that now, by her own admission, hangs out with girls significantly younger than him, might just possibly go a tad lower than that too while he's at it. I mean, then again...
What was he on the Joe Rogan Experience?
I'm not the one with a PhD. So he continues, as a scientist, I always judge things on empirical evidence, and he always has women ages 19 to 23 around him, but I've never seen anything else. So as a scientist, my presumption is that whatever the problems were, I would believe him over other people. Capping it off with that amazing quote I referenced at the beginning. Just disturbing doesn't even begin to describe it. Though
he's friends with Sam Harris. He hates Muslims and debates them. I know. All of these brilliant, objective scientists all just drop the, actually, they They cannot. They just drop all of their scientific thought and reasoning when it comes to defending pedophiles, and also when it comes to shitting on Muslims. Your haters are catfighting. It's posts like these that almost make the pain of logging in every day worth it. Drew Pavlov. Destiny called me R-worded on his live stream. I'm legitimately shattered. I put so much work into defending him. One of the worst moments of my life. I don't understand why Drew Pavlov constantly posts like this. Like he
I don't give a shit. Videos get views no matter what. Especially if I post. Okay. Oh. Yeah.
he routinely posts about his own L's. I don't understand. Does he have no filter? Like, does he not understand that he is roundly despised? Is it a kink for him? He thinks he's funny, but no one likes him. Like maybe 10 fans. No, Ethan Klein, I think, is the only person who likes him. You will never guess with whom he had a talk. Oh, wait. Oh, my God. There was another screenshot that I saw of his YouTube channel. And one is like him directly talking to Richard Spencer. And it's titled A Conversation with Richard Spencer. And then the next YouTube video he made was Nazi movie. He talked to Mr. Hamas, the magician. Hamas.
Krause's closeness with Epstein maybe isn't as much of a shock in hindsight, now that there have been a slew of other allegations against Krause in the years following his proud endorsement of Epstein here. But he has been pretty much excluded from all professional circles he used to occupy. Years too late, in my opinion. A 2019 BuzzFeed investigation discovered IRS forms proving that Epstein was also not just a regular contributor, but apparently the most generous contributor to the EDGE Foundation, a group of scientific intellectuals that included not just Krause, but also Steven Pinker, a cognitive psychologist and linguist who claims to not really know Epstein.
Oh, Steven Pinker, another Harvard professor, another Islamophobe, by the way, of course. Another anti-woke culture warrior himself. Yeah, a conversation with Richard Spencer 2 weeks ago. The new Superman movie is Nazi 8 days ago. Great numbers, by the way, for Drew.
But still found himself in some hot water when it was revealed Dershowitz tapped him for help on interpreting a law in Epstein's Palm Beach case. One of the most notable intellectuals introduced Epstein through the EDGE Foundation was none other than Stephen Hawking, a name whose appearance in the latest batch of unsealed court documents shocked the world. As you probably know at this point, Hawking had a pretty ominous connection to the pedophile. If you didn't see it in the news, you probably saw it on TikTok or South Park pretty soon, probably. But I will go ahead and let you know that right off the bat, this screenshot is not real. I know it may have looked real at first, considering the Photoshop or inspect element job someone did on it, but I gotta tell you, the actual mention of Hawking's name is somehow even more concerning. According to the recent drop, Epstein named the physicist an extremely...
One of the craziest parts about Stephen Hawking's revelation, or his involvement with Jeffrey Epstein revelation, was that, the origin of the thick eight Hawkings is that apparently, and it's not the thick eight, but apparently he literally was like, wasn't he cheating on his wife or something? Or he was like Stephen Cock King? Yeah, he was literally cheating on his wife with his nurse. And I still to this day, for the life of me, don't exactly understand how that worked. Brother, you have to stop saying that phrase. What? Stephen Hawking with a thick 8?
Poorly worded email he typed to Ghislaine Maxwell instructing her on how to reward any of Virginia's friends and family willing to disprove allegations that Hawking, quote, participated in an underage orgy on Little St. James. Now, we know that Hawking did in fact visit the island the same year this email was sent out, as evident by these photos taken in 2006, where Hawking can be seen attending a conference on gravity. Here he is trying out a submarine that Ghislaine specifically tailored for his wheelchair. I mean, what else are friends for, right? A newspaper article from that time even features a quote from Epstein where he seems to describe the purpose of that dinner. There is no agenda except
you're being ableist saying he can't cheat. Come on, guys. I don't know if you're saying that as a joke, but like, come on. If I can't ask this question that literally every single person has in their minds, like, what can I say? Like, that's the one guy. We're not talking about like Greg Abbott, okay? Greg Abbott is paralyzed from the waist down, okay? I can see how the logistics of a thing like that would work. You know, I get it. I understand. But like Stephen Hawking, like, I mean, he has like severe limitations as to how he could, like, what he could possibly do. Was he just like typing it out? Do you know what I mean? Like, what was he doing? At that point, like, what do? Do you get mad at that? Or are you just like fascinated more so?
Fun and physics, and that's fun with a capital F. That's just such a weird statement when you consider who it's coming from. Wait, what do you mean by fun? The New York Times also provided a bit more context in 2019, noting that it took place over the course of 5 days and included this email from physicist Alan Guth, who told the Times that Epstein was always followed by a group of something like 3 or 4 young women, which lines up with what we've heard from Miles and Kathy Alexander, the couple who ran the island from 1999 to 2007. Kathy telling the Daily Mail in 2011 that she became concerned about the ages of the young girls he was bringing to the island. A few of them looked very young, and I couldn't help but wonder if their mothers knew where they were. With Miles stating he sometimes...
If she was so concerned, like, why didn't she tell the police or something?
Had to push back against Epstein's attempts to, quote, smuggle in female guests by boat without logging their names. One former air traffic controller even telling Vanity Fair on multiple occasions, I saw Epstein exit his helicopter, stand on the tarmac in full view of my tower, and board his private jet with children, female children. They were always wearing college sweatshirts. It seemed like camouflage. That's the best way to put it. Recently described as, quote, the perfect hideaway and haven for trafficking young women and underage girls for sexual servitude in a lawsuit filed by the U.S. Virgin Islands, Epstein initially bought Little St. James from venture capitalist Arch Cummins for $7 million in 1998, though he was reportedly known to spend time at the island even in the years predating the official
I'm gonna be honest, I know inflation and all, but like, that's pretty cheap for a whole ass island, right? I'm glad that other people are also saying that in the chat, and I'm not alone with this, because like $7 million, you can get $7 million is like a really, really nice house in Los Angeles, right? Like, you shouldn't be able to get when you're buying like an entire island, it should not be the price of like a home that exists. It's 1998, but still. Oh no, I'm not sure you realize just how cheap houses were in the 90s. Those 10 million LA beach houses were like $400K. Yeah, but even then, dude, like 1998 was, what is 7 million from 1998? Let's look up how much is 7 million in 1998 worth now. Cheap. That's still cheap. Real estate has gone up way faster than currencies. Is not like in the early 2000s. Somebody my dad worked for
purchase. In addition to ripping up all the native vegetation,
Hassan, 35 mil is not cheap. What are you talking about? $14 million for a whole ass tropical island? What do you mean? Like, no, first of all, $14 million is not cheap, is not a little amount of money. But for an island is insane.
in exchange for 40-foot palm trees, Epstein decorated his 75-acre personal kingdom with a massive sundial, outdoor massage rooms, incredibly blew off during Hurricane Maria. It also used to have statues around and on top of it depicting what looks to be bird-like creatures on the roof, with what some have suggested are Greek gods out in front. But to this day, it still has not been confirmed what this temple was officially used for.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I'm like, what is that? That's like one of the only things. That's one of the only things that makes me think like I'm not big into the symbolism of like elite pedophiles are doing like satanic rituals or whatever. But like this is so strange. This is so strange, dude. What the hell?
With some of the wilder conspiracy theories being it was anything from a place for Epstein to carry out sacrifices to a burial ground for his late parents. However, Business Insider's J.K. Trotter was able to track down a piano tutor by the name of Patrick Barron, who visited the temple twice in 2012 to tune a Wurlitzer grand piano belonging to Epstein. While he never met the man himself, Barron described Epstein's lair as one large room with bookshelves that stretched all the way up to the ceiling. According to Barron, above the black piano he was there to tune up hung a large portrait depicting Jeffrey Epstein next to Pope John Paul II, which yes, was confirmed to actually exist during Ghislaine's 2021 trial. Footage taken by urban explorers over the last couple of years also seemed to back up Barron's claim, since there really doesn't seem to be much of anything inside this one room, which fuels another conspiracy that Epstein installed an intricate tunnel system that sprawled beneath the island, with some wondering if these bunkers were there for anything more than just maintenance. But what we know about the island already is weird and grotesque enough on its own, as it was primarily a way for Epstein to abuse girls while distancing himself further from the feds. Or in Epstein's own words, this island was a place for him to truly do anything he wanted.
I realize what I am. I'm very comfortable in my own skin, on my own island, or on my own ranch. I can think the thoughts I want to think. I can do the work I want to do, and I'm free to explore as I see fit.
But he sure didn't do it alone, as one recent lawsuit alleged. See, in 2022, the Virgin Islands filed a massive lawsuit against America's largest bank, JP Morgan, for knowingly, negligently, and unlawfully providing and pulling the levers through which recruiters and victims were paid and was indispensable to the operation and concealment of the Epstein trafficking enterprise. The suit also added that human trafficking was the principal business of the accounts Epstein maintained at JP Morgan. It alleged that the bank continued providing services for Epstein even after he was raising red flags for his conviction as a child sex offender in 2008, as he was one of their most valuable clients. Though a spokesperson for the bank has tried to say they would not have done business with Epstein if we believed he was using our bank in any way to help commit heinous crimes, a lawyer representing Epstein's victims argued in a June 2023 court filing that the bank had no reason not to know the extent of Epstein's profound relationship with the former head of JP Morgan's wealth management department, Jess Staley. Jess Staley's argument that he had no relationship with Jeffrey Epstein pretty much completely fell apart after a series of emails came out, depicting an extremely embarrassing bromance that included Jess writing to Epstein things like, "I miss you, the world is a tough place, hang in there," while he was jailed in Palm Beach for, again, being a pedophile. Epstein was assuring the executive he was free to use the island as much as he wanted while he was away. All the while, other JP Morgan executives were debating amongst themselves whether or not they should drop Epstein as a client. One 2008 email obtained by Bloomberg alluded to the bank being uncomfortable with Epstein, yet that didn't stop them from continuing to provide service to him until 2013, notably thanks to intervention from Staley himself. One 2010 email from JP Morgan's risk management literally asked the question, "See below, new allegations of an investigation related to child trafficking. Are you still comfortable with this client who is now a registered sex offender?" Rest assured though that as the Financial Times
The answer is yes, they were. They were like, what do you mean? That's like one of our least criminal clients. It's a bank, dude. I mean, remember HSBC? Like the answer is always yes. These guys literally work with everybody, okay? Everybody.
Reported, the bank later confirmed the quote topic with Jeffrey Epstein, who replied there was no truth to the allegations, no evidence, and was not expecting any problems. Now is also a good time to mention that while the current JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon denies having ever heard of Epstein, remarkably, further
Who connected Jeffrey Epstein and Jamie Dimon?
emails seem to show Leslie Groff, Epstein's personal assistant, setting up an in-person meeting between Epstein, Staley, and Dimon. Reading it, shall I have Lynn provide heavy snacks for your evening appointments with Jess Staley and Jamie Dimon? Or is this to be a nice sit-down dinner at 9 p.m.? To which Epstein responded, snacks. The Financial Times also notes that Staley continued exchanging emails with Epstein reading, so when all hell breaks loose and the world is crumbling, I will come here to Little St. James and be at peace. Presently, I'm in the hot tub with a glass of white wine. This is an amazing place, truly amazing. Next time, we're here together. I owe you much, and I deeply appreciate our friendship. I have few so profound. When Epstein sent a photo of a young woman,
Do you think there are other Epsteins out there? Yes. I mean, there are smaller... Like there are Jeffrey Epstein's for like lower class levels of celebrity. Diddy is similar, but like Jeffrey Epstein obviously is like the highest level. You have Andrew Tate, who's kind of like a Jeffrey Epstein as well. Many of them live in Dubai, and not only that, but also there's definitely like a Jeffrey Epstein substitute that's currently operating right now. I doubt that the intelligence community would just be like, all right, well, we lost our primary sex trafficking asset, so we're just going to let go of our blackmail operations or anything like that. I'm sure that there's another Jeffrey Epstein that's currently working.
Staley then replied, don't tell me a French wine, to which Epstein remarked, always thoughts of alcohol. Whether that's code for something else is up to you to determine, of course. But separate emails also depict Staley referring to Disney princesses, writing, that was fun, say hi to Snow White for me. Epstein then asked, what character would you like next? When Staley answered Beauty and the Beast, Epstein stated, well, one side is available. And in 2008, while the two were making plans for Staley to visit Epstein's Palm Beach home, court filings allege Epstein wired a girl with an Eastern European surname $2,000, sending her another $3,000 in 2009, at the same time Staley told Epstein that he was going to London.
News was breaking overnight. Barclays CEO Jess Staley is stepping down, this following an investigation into his relationship with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein.
It should come as no surprise that the bank reached a settlement with the Virgin Islands for $75 million, along with another settlement for Epstein's victim.
I got you baited. The way you said that made it seem like Chris Hayes directly grilled JD Vance.
Reportedly paying $290 million to over 100 girls abused by Epstein, which is of course in addition to another $75 million settlement reached with Deutsche Bank, the biggest bank in Germany that, along with allegedly facilitating Epstein's trafficking ring from 2013 to 2018, has been embroiled in controversy throughout history, most notably when it financed Auschwitz in World War II. Though neither settlement required Deutsche or JP Morgan to formally admit to any wrongdoing, these hefty payments do indicate to me just how willing they were to make the story disappear as fast as possible. After all, JP Morgan settled just days after former CEO Jamie Dimon and his successor Mary Erdos were called back to court to be re-deposed. I think it's clear these banks had more than a vested...
It's crazy because he was just like, oh, I've never met him. Like he literally denied it. Look at this. JP Morgan's Dimon denied having any contact with Jeffrey Epstein while they were being sued. As Jabri also pointed out, they're just such rapacious scumbags and liars.
Interest to keep their ties to Epstein as quiet as possible.
There have been some headlines recently regarding Jeffrey Epstein and the ongoing litigation there. Has it impacted your brand equity at all?
A little bit sometimes, but we banked Jeffrey Epstein, and I'm so sorry that we did it. I wish we hadn't. Had we known then, we know today, we obviously wouldn't have. And so...
have you changed the vetting of potential clients?
The more extraordinary revelations from the JP Morgan suit, though, is that we actually get to see more of Epstein's personal schedules, which identifies some of the people Epstein would meet with on a day-to-day basis, after he was a registered sex offender, of course. These names consisted of Woody Allen, Noam Chomsky, Bard College president Leon Botstein, and even former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak, who first met Epstein in 2003 and went on to visit him in both New York and Florida at least 30 times between 2013 and 2017.
Dude, guys, not an intelligence asset for the Mossad. Okay, please stop saying this. Ehud just really liked how chill Jeffrey was. Okay, that's it. They had shared interests. Yeah, Jeffrey Epstein was also an expert in Israeli taxes as well as American taxes. You don't understand.
Times of Israel has also pointed out that this included monthly meetings the pair had throughout 2015, while Epstein was having to regularly meet with attorneys representing his many victims. The fact this guy was able to just continue dining with literal world leaders, while at the same time popping in for a meeting with lawyers regarding numerous ongoing lawsuits, is just insane to me. With Chomsky even trying to say that Epstein's prison time indicated a, quote, clean slate. Magician David Copperfield was also known to visit Epstein after his time.
I forgot about that. I forgot he said something about that. Oh God. Ay. God, he's such an anarchist. It's crazy. He's such an anarchist, dude. He is a libertarian through and through, you know? Yeah, really putting the libertarian and libertarian socialism for sure. For sure. Noam Chomsky should have really thought about getting consent and not manufacturing it. Fuck, that's messed up.
Prison, according to Epstein's personal schedules and a victim by the name of Johanna Schoberg, who testified that Copperfield once pulled her to the side and asked if she knew that girls were getting paid to find other girls. Out of all the powerful people Epstein mingled with during the last decade of his life, specifically, when he was a known child sex offender, I should emphasize once again, there are some who have managed to at least keep their stories straight. Bill Gates is not one of those people.
You had a number of meetings with Jeffrey Epstein.
Melinda is so vicious, dude. I mean, respect to Melinda, by the way, because she cut that shit crazy.
Who, when you met him 10 years ago, he was convicted of soliciting prostitution from minors.
When everything about Epstein blew up in 2019, Gates made sure to answer questions about his alleged contact with the predator as swiftly and as plainly as he could, admitting to the Wall Street Journal in an interview where he was doing promo for a Netflix documentary about himself, "I met him, I didn't have any business relationship or friendship with him, I didn't go to New Mexico or Florida or Palm Beach or any of that, except this wasn't true," okay? Shortly after he issued the statement, flight logs surfaced that showed Gates had, in fact, been to Florida. He just didn't know it, but I guess it isn't that uncommon to trip and fall onto a pedophile's private jet when you're that rich. Maybe that's why he ended up traveling to New York for a long, late-night discussion at Epstein's townhome. Now, I don't know about you, but I haven't yet made the little oopsie-doopsie of chatting late into the night with a publicly known child sex offender at his own house, but who am I to speak for others? All he said at the time in emails obtained by the New York Times were,
I think about this quite a bit, where it's like, were they all just basically thinking like, well, obviously this guy's like, you know, he's pretty mobbed up, right? Like he's pretty connected. So maybe nothing bad will come of it for them. Like he won't get rearrested. You know what I mean? Even though he's like clearly still doing the same shit that led to his previous arrest and conviction, you know? Like, there's got to be some people who were like, oh, this is a incredibly connected, powerful person, and I'm just going to overlook the fact that he is a convicted pedophile. You know what I mean? But the other side of the story always is like, what was Jeffrey Epstein offering beyond connections?
Epstein's lifestyle is very different and kind of intriguing, although it would not work for me. Of course, he was only talking about the mansion's decor, according to one Gates spokesperson, but may I remind you that his New York mansion contained a mural of himself in prison. I wonder if that part of Epstein's past came up at all during the conversation. We know Epstein himself thought everything went great, though, writing in his own email reviewed by The Times simply, "Bill's great." They would go on to meet a
Have you ever heard of links between Roger Stone and Epstein? Seems like a lot of their circles overlap, but never heard his name come up. He's brought it up to defend Donald Trump, but they were all child sex junkies. All rational thought went out the window. I don't know about every single person, chatter. I don't think every single person that was involved with Jeffrey Epstein was like straight up like there. Because again, this goes back to that's the most interesting, the eye-catching part, and perhaps the most vile of crimes that he committed. But I think that there were a lot of people who were tied to him financially, like
a couple more times in 2011. First at a TED Talk in California, before again at Epstein's townhome a second time, when this photo was taken showing the two men standing next to Jess Staley, former Treasury Secretary Lawrence Summers, and Gates Foundation advisor Boris Nikolic. And as of late October 2014, Bill Gates made a $2 million donation to MIT's Media Lab, which has since been exposed.
Bill A. Packman's wife's shop, by the way. That's right. There's emails. Remember Bill A. Packman's emails? About begging people to not make the connection to his wife and Jeffrey Epstein. That was fun.
For having direct ties to Epstein. And sure, maybe you could say that, oh, well, he just didn't know that and he wanted to help out the Media Lab. And maybe, but in an email obtained by the New Yorker, lab director Joy Ito made sure to clarify in the donation, hey, this is a $2 million gift from Bill Gates directed by Jeff.
This is hey, just want to make sure you know, prolific international sex trafficker, pedophile Jeffrey Epstein made his best friend Bill Gates give you this $2 million gift after they had fun together on the island or in the New York mansion or maybe the Florida one. Who knows? Just want to make sure that everyone is clear on how this money got to you, okay? Hello.
Free Epstein. In response, another Gates spokesperson retaliated with any claim that Epstein directed any programmatic or personal grant making for Bill Gates is completely false. But it's worth noting that these meetings are what actually contributed to the Gates' 2021 divorce, which is actually something I did not know before setting out to make this video. Apparently, Bill Gates' ex-wife Melinda told CBS, yes, I did not like that he had. I made that clear to him. And while it's true that she had also accompanied her husband on one of these visits to Epstein's place, she told CBS it was to see who this man was, and that she regretted it the second I walked in the door. He was abhorrent. He was evil personified, adding that she later had nightmares about the man. The Daily Beast also reported that this meeting was completely unknown to the public until Melinda spoke out, with one source close to the Gates family also confirming to the outlet she was furious at the relationship. Which begs the question if she knew how evil Epstein was and made it clear to her husband just why she didn't like them hanging out together, then why didn't Bill Gates cease all communication? I mean, as Vice notes, we know they met around 6 times between 2011 and 2013, then dozens of times in 2014. That would have given him plenty of time to figure out what Epstein had been convicted of. It makes no sense to keep going to these meetings. How can you turn around and say you regret your association with the man now that it's convenient when your own ex-wife tried to warn?
I don't believe her. She did this as soon as shit was going down. Oh no, for sure. I think she was. Look, I'm not doing this thing where she's like, oh, she's money grubbing or whatever, right? I'm not saying that at all. I will say, however, that the timing of her revelations was awfully suspicious because I think she basically used that as a PR campaign during this high profile divorce that was being worked out. That's what I think. Like, I think this was definitely, I see this totally being a PR move, or at least that's how I thought about it at the time. That like, this was her being like, you. Wait, so terrible person Steve Jobs is somehow better than known fake good person Bill Gates? I mean, I don't think anyone is at that level of wealth and prominence is like a good person. I think ironically enough, people like Kylie Jenner are probably better people, even though they're in a similar financial status, and not to the same degree as like Bill Gates, but like out of billionaires and billionaire status people, someone as like public as like a Kylie Jenner, despite all of her very openly known flaws, is probably a better person than these guys are. You just say that because she's hot? No, I'm just saying that because like they're like famous celebrities that end up getting to billionaire status are still evil, but like less evil by comparison, even though our image of them is clearly not so great due to the fact that we know so much about them. Come on, Hassan, you really believe that? Yes, I do. I'm saying that while all of these like famous celebrities that become billionaires are still also evil, they are probably less evil. I'm using my words very carefully. They're probably less evil than like a Jeff Bezos or a Bill Gates or any number of different people that like are kind of sheltered from the public eye and do their evil shit in quiet.
You years earlier, but it does make it a bit harder for him to repeat the tired defense that he had no relationship, personal or business, with the man. He basically says one thing, only to have the media